Welcome to the Virtual Manager podcast. My name's Anna Russell. I'm an artist manager and founder of The Virtual Manager. Throughout my career, I've developed and managed several music artists from new unsigned acts right through to globally successful ones. This podcast is for all unmanaged or independent music artists who want to start, build, or grow a successful, sustainable music career. If you listened to last week's episode, you should now have your strategy for 2020 mapped out. That means you're clear on what your creative, business, and financial goals as a music artist are this year, and you have defined action steps on how to achieve these with a timeline to follow. But there are some other habits and business practices you're going to want to put in place to ensure that 2020 is your most progressive and productive year yet. In this episode, I provide you with a thorough to-do list to help you do just that. By crossing off all the tasks in this to-do list, you ensure that your artist project is running like the professional business you want it to be. It also allows you to spot it quickly if you go off track or a certain tactic isn't working for you or you're not being consistent enough. This means no more wasting any time, no more wondering why something isn't working for you, and no more going too far down the wrong track. Essentially, if there are any weak spots in your artist project / business, the tasks in this to-do list will allow you to identify and then rectify them right away. So let's get started. The very first task is to ensure that your foundations are strong. Without solid foundations to your artist project / business, no amount of marketing or promotion will get you the results you want. So the start of the year is a good time to check your foundations. And what are these? So we think of the foundations of a successful artist project as being a clear sound identity and good quality recordings that you're really proud of. It's having a strong brand identity and then branding that accurately reflects that identity. It's having a vision for where you want to go as an artist and a strategy to help you do that. So some of the things that you might want to check when you're going through your foundations and you realize that perhaps they're not quite in place, it might include things like updating your branding or your online presence if needed. So some ways to do this are to check that all of the links on your social media profiles and website are relevant, up to date, and working. You want to make sure that your social media and your website don't look tired or stagnant. So you might need to invest in new branding, new photos, new artwork if necessary. You also want to make sure that your biography is up to date and accurately represents the artist that you are today. You want to make sure that there's contact details for either yourself or your representatives on all of your online presence. And you want to make sure that all of your social media platforms, your website, and any other online profiles that you have are all uniformed. That's just one example of how you can check that your foundations are solid, because it's only once these are in place that you're successfully able to execute your strategy for the year. If your foundations are shaky, you'll get so far down the path only to hit a dead end and need to then return to your foundations anyway. So better to do it now. Task 2, focus on consistent fan base building. Fan base building is the key to your success as an artist and an ongoing activity which should be happening throughout the year. With most artists that I speak to, fan base building is distinctly lacking from their strategy. So think about which fan base building activities you're doing. Are these effective, or is it time to try something new? Are you doing enough in fan base building activities? Is your fan base building ongoing and consistent? So some fan base building activities include playing live shows, collaborations and releases with artists within your circle of influence, so that you're being exposed to one another's fan bases. It's regularly engaging with fans and followers online, and it's putting out consistent content such as new music, new videos, and social media content, to name just a few. Of these fan base building activities, content is king when it comes to fan base building. So do you have a content plan and a calendar set out? If not, devise this and stick to it throughout the year, tweaking it to become ever more effective as you go on. You want to make sure that when it comes to fan base building, you are optimizing discovery of your music. So having as many different relevant places and ways in which people can discover you as an artist and discover your music. And then conversion. So converting people that are listeners or casual observers into tangible fans. And an example of a tangible fan would be somebody that has subscribed to your mailing list. Task number 3, plan your releases for the year. So which songs will you be releasing this year? How often and when? Don't just randomly decide which tracks you're going to release. Look at your goals for the year in your strategy and decide which of your songs will best help you achieve each of these goals. For example, is one song more radio friendly than the others? Is there a single which you think will best perform on Spotify playlists? Which of your songs are the most memorable or the most accessible? Which do you get the most positive feedback on? Answering these questions should help you get clear on what your release plan for this year should be, which order to release your music in, and I want you to be tactical about releasing. Remember what we've just said, that content is king, which means you most likely want to be releasing quality music as often as you can, especially if you're a new artist. So write down a release plan and a timeline for your 2020 singles and EPs now. Task number 4, measure key metrics. Tracking your progress as an artist or as a business is really important if you want to ensure that you're actually moving forward. Too often, months can go by before you've realized that your fan base hasn't grown at all, or that your engagement has plateaued, or that you're actually making less money than you were 6 months ago. You're aiming for growth at all times, even if it's slow growth. So here are the metrics to measure. First of all, growth of your fan base and reach of your music, including your social media followers, your mailing list subscribers, and more importantly, the level of engagement you're getting on each of these platforms and places. I also include Spotify followers in this, which I do count as a measure of tangible fans of your music because they're people that have chosen to follow your profile and await new releases. But you also want to check the following on your other listening and streaming platforms. More important is the level of engagement you're getting on each of these. You can also measure engagement on individual pieces of content to see which resonate the most with your fan base. The next metric to measure would be the number of streams each of your songs is getting on streaming platforms, sales and downloads of your music across all places that you distribute it. The next metric that I recommend measuring is sales of your merchandise, gig tickets, or any other products and bundles you sell. Another metric to measure would be the income from all music-related activities overall. And the final metric to measure would be profit. So that's what you actually take home after all your costs are deducted. To know this, you'll also need to track your spending and your expenses as well. Use the targets that you've set in your strategy for the year to measure your key metrics against. Measure these month on month and watch your progress in real time. If at any point these are not progressing at the rate or level that you feel they should be, realistically speaking, you'll know it's time to make changes in your strategy or to step up your game. The next task on your to-do list is to get your finances in order. So this might include setting up a business bank account for all expenses and income related to your artist project. I love Starling, as you know, because it allows you to have separate sections for each of your different sub-accounts. So those could be split into income, profits, tax savings, operating expenses, etc. You want to determine the budget you have to work with this year and how you're going to distribute this budget most effectively. So how and where are you going to spend any budget that you have available to you for your artist project? Use your 2020 strategy to see exactly what you're going to need funding for. Then make sure this is safely put aside in your business bank account. The next thing to do would be to review your expenses and amend or reduce these as required. So you should always be assessing your expenses and make sure that they haven't crept up too far and that they're being spent in the best way possible for you. You want to use an online accounting tool such as FreeAgent, Xero, or QuickBooks to help you keep your spending and earning on your artist project in order. This is incredibly helpful when it comes to filing your tax returns or working with an accountant. Ditto an invoicing tool such as Zoho, which is designed specifically for musicians to help you easily send invoices and for free. Many of the accounting tools I just mentioned also help you to do this, so you may not need both. You want to make sure that you're tracking your expenses and keeping receipts for everything related to your artist project. And finally, if you file a tax return for your self-employment income here in the UK, remember this has to be done and paid by the 31st of January. Task 6 on the essential to-do list is to register your songs with a collection society. I want to ensure that you're earning money as soon as possible as a music artist, and one of the earliest sources of income available to each of you who write or co-write songs is performing rights income. This means joining your local collection society, which here in the UK is PRS, the Performing Rights Society, who then collect and distribute monies paid to you each quarter as is due. If you're already performing your own songs in venues or having your songs played on radio, for example, but you haven't yet joined PRS, you could be leaving money on the table. Yes, it currently costs £100 to join, but you'll soon make this back. If you're not yet a member but are already having songs you've written played in the public domain, including at your own live shows, then consider joining as soon as possible. If you're already a member of PRS or your local collection society, take the time to ensure that you've registered all your songs with them and that you've submitted all your gig set lists to date. Then resolve to log into your PRS account and do this once a month or once a quarter. It will mean your admin is always up to date and that you don't lose out on any PRS income. The 7th and final task on the to-do list is to join the music community. If you want to be a part of this industry, you need to actually join it. You also need support as a music artist, and if you're an independent artist, the best place to seek this is from your peer group. So other artists, musicians, songwriters, and producers who may be at a similar stage to you. Having even just one friend or family member at least that supports and believes in you and your music can really make all the difference on your artist journey. You can call on them in those inevitable moments when self-doubt creeps in. So I can't recommend enough identifying and connecting with whoever those people are for you. On a larger scale, why not resolve to get out to at least one music industry networking event, open mic, showcase, or gig a month? These can be in your local area wherever you're based and will hugely help you to expand your network within the music industry. If a network is something you've been missing, I also encourage you to join the waiting list for the Virtual Manager membership, where you can interact with a network of like-minded, proactive music artists, myself, an artist manager, and a range of other music industry guests on a daily basis. That concludes your essential to-do list for music artists for 2020. If you want to make this year your most productive, smooth, and successful yet, please implement the tasks discussed in this. It will ensure that you are running the business that is your artist project in a professional manner. That's it for this week. Join me next Tuesday for another episode of the Virtual Manager podcast, where I will be sharing with you things that you should never pay for as a music artist. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Virtual Manager podcast. If you've found it useful, I invite you to check out the Virtual Manager membership site. The Virtual Manager is an essential resource for independent music artists who want to start, build, or grow a successful, sustainable music career. It ensures that you have the foundations of that music career in place, then helps you to build on those to achieve your music career goals. With monthly music industry training, a library of tools and resources, A&R feedback on your music, access to live Q&As with me, plus an active supportive community of like-minded artists, the Virtual Manager is the perfect place to be for any unmanaged or independent artist. The Virtual Manager relaunches very shortly, so to get early bird access at the lowest membership price, join the waiting list now at thevirtualmanager.co.uk. Finally, please take a minute to review and subscribe to this podcast. It helps more independent music artists to find us.